Hello, everybody, and welcome to Politi-Talk Centered, where we invite you to have the conversation. I'm your host, Sandman.
And I'm your co-host, Holland.
Thank you for joining us today as we discuss 4th of July and what it means to us and why it's so important. So, I'll let you kind of start this one off, kind of what it is to you, and then we'll kind of go into same thing for me, and as well as we'll break down into the Declaration of Independence a little bit. So what's your take on the 4th of July and what does it mean to you?
I think as 4th of July, I know a lot of people take it as like independence and stuff, but I also look at it as like, hey, this is America's birthday. Like legit our country's birthday. Um it's the 244th birthday of America, which is amazing because we are one of the super nations in the world. Um, yeah, we have our ups and downs, like we struggle, but we're one of the youngest like world leaders in the world. Like it's incredible to be 244 years old and be equivalent to China or to Russia or Britain and stuff, who's been around much longer than us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, nobody really thinks about that, but that's really true. I mean, for how young of a nation we are, and to have surpassed every other nation in such a short amount of time is definitely worth noting.
Yeah. And the thing I always look at it is like, yeah, people want to say fuck America, or people want to say America's full of bullshit and stuff. It's like, listen, it's 244 years old. There is so much we can do if we were to stop focusing on the negatives. Like, I get it, but we can't go back to the past. Okay? That's digression right there. All right. We need to progress in life, and we can make this nation incredible if we were just to work together and to make things happen. I get that, there's douchebags. I get that there's, people out there who are ignorant, but hey, like if we were to educate ourselves and work towards a better future for everyone, this country could be amazing.
Yeah, and like on top of that too, no country is without fault. There is no country out there that doesn't have its own issues and problems. So, to say like, America's got all these issues and stuff, it's like, well, yeah, so does every other country. And find me another country in the world where, you have as much freedom and opportunity as we do without some of the more major problems that other countries have to deal with.
And those countries have been facing these same problems for years, like hundreds of years, longer than we've even been around. What's incredible about us is, we've only been around for a short period of time, and yeah, like I get it that the amendments were well thought, but at the same time, I don't even think our founding fathers thought, this nation would become as large as it is now. So to me, that's just an incredible aspect right there. Is that we're well over in the millions and we're became one of the world's superpowers. We're not a third world country. We're not any of that, and we're still learning. Like our nation as a whole is still learning as it gets older. And things have, like, if you look in the history of America, things are rough. Things are brutal, and it sucks. But guess what? The more you look into our present day, things are amazing. Things are getting better. They're improving. And people need to realize that, like, hey, stop focusing on the past and look in the future. Like, look at it now. Like, you got, like, for the black community, like, you got people who are owning businesses. You got people who are owning nice Bentleys, like cars, rappers, things that, back in the day, your forefathers and stuff would have never even, like, couldn't even dream of. I mean, it's incredible how far we've actually came as a nation within 244 years. Yeah, we have our ups and downs, but we can improve. We can still improve. And that's what it means to me.
Yeah, and even with that, like, in general, like the world, as a species, how far we've come, and all that we've done, as well as as a people, an industrious people, a technological people, and a scientific both in the sciences and the medical sciences. Um, there's so much America has done that has benefited the world. Like when we talk about medicine and stuff, um, we have probably not the shittiest, but a pretty crappy public uh, medical welfare kind of system. Ours is pretty craptastic, but at the same time, we have such a large private sector in the medicine area that allows us to be the reason why there are so many advances in modern medicine that benefit the world. The reason why all these other countries can afford to have um, socialized medicine is because we're putting out all the work and research that they don't have to do. It's things that they don't have to pay for that they gain and benefit from us. So there's so much more that people don't sit down to think about. That yeah, we're not perfect. There's a lot of problems, and there's a lot of growing pains with how young our this nation is. But there's no other nation in the world that is more equipped and ready to deal with those growing pains than we are. Every other country that's had growing pains like us have either had a revolution and a completely new government established, or those revolutions have been toppled by dictatorship, monarchy, kingships, and whatever else. And then just business goes on as usual. So the fact that we're so flexible and able to deal with these changes in our society and in our government just shows you how well we have been established.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of times I feel like, when we watch, like, to me, I'm not a big fan of the BBC news channel. I feel like a lot of times they don't like to talk about their own problems within their own countries, so they try to find fault in other countries to talk about. And yeah, America, don't get me wrong, there's a lot that they can point out and make fun of all day long. There's a lot that they can talk about problems, and I feel like us as Americans, we shouldn't be watching their news. All right, like they don't live here, they don't know what it's like to be here. They're facing struggles and issues of their own every day, and they're just trying to hide behind it. They don't want their own people to be like, "Oh yeah, our lives are shit." Like,
Yeah, I could see that, but on the same time too, I do use BBC a lot. Like it's the only news app that I have. I don't have any other. If like all if I'm researching, I'll use multiple sources, but just for my day to day news and stuff, I like the BBC because um, the one thing that you don't deal with the BBC is internal country bias. And so when I read their reports, I know that it's not coming from an angle at which they're trying to please one side or the other. It's for the most part fairly objective news, which is something that our local um, news givers in the states have fallen very short from lately. And it's not necessarily their fault per se. I just think that they need to stop preaching under the pretense that they are objective news, because they're not. They're biased. So that's kind of the only issue I have there. But that's kind of one reason why I use BBC as like just like my morning news kind of thing. Um, but if I'm researching, absolutely, I use many sources.
I just never been a big fan of the BBC.
And I will say I don't care for their broadcasted news. I only read their articles and stuff that their journalists put out.
I was gonna say
I never really watched the actual TV BBC.
the TV BBC is the one that I'm bashing. Is it's kind of trash. I always feel like they're trying to mock all the time when it comes to other country issues and stuff. And it's like, you yourself as a nation, you got a lot of internal struggles. Like, there's like almost a riot there almost every month of something. So, I feel like they never really have room to talk. But I do agree with you on the articles and stuff, like reading and researching, like their journalists, I do say, are on point when it comes to finding out the truth and stuff. Like like I do respect that aspect of it, but the live broadcast, I can't really respect that.
And I think the issue there is kind of the same in the states too. It's that for the live broadcasters, the people that make the nightly news and stuff, the big faces, that's where really the agenda is sold. For everybody else, all the little guys that are writing articles and stuff that most people don't really see anyway, and definitely nobody pays attention to who writes them. Those are the people I feel like put the most heart and effort into writing objective news because they have every reason to do so. So I guess we'll go into what the fourth is for me. Huh?
Yeah, let's hear your views on America.
So America. I have always been patriotic. I've always loved this country. I've always been proud to be in this country and to be a citizen of this country. Um, and is part of the reason why I joined the military to serve the country. It's something that I'm driven to do. Like I not necessarily feel compelled to do, but I want to do it. And there's other things in there too. You get benefits and schooling and stuff like that. So it's all pros. Kind of little incentives to get people to want to do stuff with the military. But ultimately, I mean, there is a huge sense of pride that I take with that. And then so when it comes to Independence Day, um, it's very easy to kind of initially forget what Independence Day really means. You think about getting together with friends or family, shooting some guns, blowing up some fireworks, or whatever other kind of explosive you want to be patriotic with. And you kind of can forget, and it's, we're celebrating it, but I try to every year take a step back and really think about what the year has meant to me and how it correlates to the original date of the Declaration of Independence. And for me, it's honestly, I view it as a huge progressive step for mankind. It was a point at which um, things like slavery were common throughout the world. Uh, People were viewed for their economic wealth and their social status. They weren't viewed for their human value or anything else like that. It was, what could you offer to the table? And based on that, we kind of decided where you fell in the social structure and ladder. The United States was the first and only country really to ever, in an extremist way, break away from that mentality and dare to say that all are equal. Um, and when the Declaration of Independence was written, obviously it was known that stuff wasn't going to happen overnight, but it was the mindset to establish a country in which equality could be had for all. And that's why the Declaration of Independence um, greatly influenced the way the Constitution was written. If you read both of them kind of side by side, you'll see a lot of similarity from the two, how they feed into each other. And so ultimately, what Independence Day means to me, what the 4th of July means to me, is the day humanity stepped forward and made the pledge to make the world a better place, starting with us here. And I greatly appreciate that for all the opportunity is not only given myself and my family, but every American in this country.
You know, I can deeply respect that because, like, even, because I feel like our views are kind of similar in a way. Like me, I look at it as like, we're one of the youngest nations, and I take pride in that, the fact that we're making progress still. But like you said, that was a huge step, definitely for a group of men who were going to be, if they basically risked everything they had to make this happen. If they would have lost, they would have been hung or shot to death for treason. And they definitely took what they had, and they didn't have a whole lot either. And that that's what the whole guerrilla warfare tactics, everything kicked in because it was a lot of odds stacked against us as a nation when we decided to claim the independency. It
Yeah.
wasn't like an even battle at all. It was if we were to,
It was completely stacked against us. There was everything out of our favor.
yeah, like back then, like a lot of people may not remember, but war wasn't fought like war is now. Um, America was the one that changed war up majorly too, because back in
Oh
the
yeah,
day,
we fought dirty. We invented.
guerrilla warfare.
I wouldn't say we invented it, but we established that the traditional way of war was coming to a close. We show that there's an advantage in kind of playing dirty. We broke away from that kind of honorable, idiotic getting in a row and waiting to see who has
Yeah, we
somebody
we
left.
ambushed. We did anything that we could to take out as much as we could. It was definitely a those men who fought for for us to celebrate our independence today. They definitely went out there and they fought like rabid dogs. They fought tooth and nail until there was no one left. And that is definitely something to think about every year, to take a step back, and think like that. Like, hey, there was a lot of men who risked it all and didn't have anything, and they still fought tooth and nail.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like when we were established, outside of just establishing the Constitution, we could have made another monarchy or dictatorship of some kind. We could have set up any form of government we wanted, and these men had all that power and decided it was best for the future of the nation to not abuse it and to make sure that nobody else could. And even George Washington, there was no set limit to terms. He could have been president for the rest of his life. And he saw the danger in that and decided to make a limit. Just the purity of thought and consideration that it required to do that, is immeasurable.
Yeah, and it can make sense why he would see that, because he definitely came from like a monarch government beforehand, of times with kings and queens, hardcore. So you can definitely see where he would get that ideal for sure on wanting a term limit. Because if you were just putting one person in there, who's to say their whole family isn't just going to rule the whole country?
Yeah, yeah. So brief overview of what the Declaration of Independence was, and I'll get into the preamble. I won't list all the grievances, which is the bulk of the rest of it, but I'll explain everything at least. So the Declaration of Independence was intended for many audiences to start with. Obviously, it was directly addressed to the king to declare our independence from England, but it was also designated to the colonists and the world. It was literally a declaration of us breaking free and establishing ourselves. And its goals were also to rally the troops, to give people a sense of hope and purpose, inspiration, as well as win foreign allies, like we did with France, to show that hey, we're going to be fighting for this. Be our ally and prosper with us.
Even though we fought the French later after.
It's convenience. So that's essentially kind of who it was addressed to and why. The preamble, which I will just go ahead and read because it's a good preamble. And I'll actually kind of read the full introduction as well. So, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its power in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prejudice, indeed, will dictate the governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses, usurpations pursuing invariably the same objective, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute deposition, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world, in which they then go into all the grievances. So there's 27 grievances, which are complaints against King George III, that constitute the proof of essentially justifying the rebellion, and their reasons to the cause to which they impel the separation, what impelled them to separate. And then at the very end is the resolution. At the very end, I'll read the very last bit of it, that these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states. And it goes into declare a complete break with Britain and the king and the claims of power that they have over the independent country. So I mean, it's pretty. I mean, it's a beautifully written document, absolutely beautifully written, and so much of that is really what the United States stands for, and so much of it I feel like we've grown away from and we've broken away from, and we've forgotten. And I think it's why we have so many issues. But that is a talk for another time. What do you feel about the Declaration itself?
The Declaration. I'm just kidding. No, it's definitely a good declaration. I've never really personally read all the way through it all. Not gonna lie, but the part that you've read, definitely probably read that like thousands of times and throughout school and a little through college. It's definitely that beginning, like the letter that, like you said, they sent out to everyone else. To, it was basically like a call to arms, like, hey, we definitely need the help. Still didn't get really much help.
Yeah. But we eventually got it done.
I was gonna say, like what we talked about. You're talking about probably like 100 men compared to like 1,000, maybe more.
At times, at certain times, depending on the region, I mean, you're looking at in ratio, 10 men to hundreds.
Yeah.
In a ratio perspective.
And a lot of people, like all I'm seeing on Facebook today, I hate to say, and it kind of irritates me, is they want to talk about they can always be another talk another time, is like children in cages and stuff like that, and it's like I said, it's more negative than anything, and I just want people to realize that, hey, we're a very young nation, we're learning, We're getting there. We're not perfect. We have flaws, but for 244 years, I mean, hell, we're doing better than most.
Yeah, definitely. No, you see a lot of like, I mean, even the European Union. Um, I actually, we should do a talk on the UN in the future, because uh, just the recent history of it, so much of it has dissolved and fallen apart, and is failing. Um, and that's not even a country. That's an organized system of countries. You would think with all of those minds together, they would figure something out, but it's failed completely.
Yeah,
Well, almost. It's not completely failed yet, but I'm
but there's,
my bet's on that it will be.
I mean, I don't see it lasting forever. I mean, I possibly see it in our generation falling apart. The only reason I say that is because, I mean, like you said, the only thing they majorly do is maybe take in the war crimes and stuff. But even then, it's kind of a joke when it comes to it. I mean, yeah,
And like, it really, it had a purpose at the end of World War II, and it served a purpose, and I think it's outlived it, and that's why. But definitely a good topic for another time.
yeah,
Um, I do want to keep this short. Tomorrow it's going to be a very lengthy our main podcast is going to be very lengthy. So I just wanted to put out something tonight. I know it's a little bit late. We did want to spend time with our families and stuff. So I still wanted to do something um, in effect to the 4th of July. I felt like it wasn't right to have such an important holiday come up and then not talk about it, and in fact talk about another country and their independence issues. So I just wanted to do this to appreciate the holiday, describe it, and hopefully maybe if you didn't know about the history of Independence Day and kind of the significance of it and everything behind it, um, hopefully this has helped you understand a little bit more. I will, for those on YouTube, I will put links in the description. You can go check out the Constitution, and they have some nice breakdowns. This is the archives.gov. And so they have a really cool breakdown of kind of describing everything in the Constitution, and like the history around it and the events that transpired it and led up to it. So really, really cool information. And if it's something that you haven't uh, learned much in school or you've just forgotten, it's definitely worth reading into.
it's a refresher for sure. And I'll also put a link in the YouTube section to support my independent nation that I'm starting up to.
Well,
New constitution.
Chaz Chap has already fallen, so I guess it's time for another underdog to take the reins and see if they can do it right the first time. Well, I guess this would be the second time now.
Can I just be real though? This is very for selfish reasons. Yeah, if you guys are interested in making money every day and just drinking beer all day, hey, let's make a new nation. Just kidding.
It sounds more like a pyramid scheme. Like only the top people, and that's really going to benefit from it. Maybe we'll just hide a link somewhere in the Discord.
I'm just kidding.
I don't know if we'll make it too easy. But anyway, thank you everybody for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we will talk to you all on the other side.
Hopefully you guys had a good fourth and spent a lot of good times with your family and friends. And if you're drinking, don't drive. Be safe.
Yeah. And then for those in the military, you know who your NCO is. Call them. They'll yell at you, but you'll appreciate it.
Bye. Have a nice time.